Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a weekly podcast about the coronavirus. For 120 episodes long. Every week has been about the coronavirus, so tune in. We know everything about coronavirus. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
This week we're going to talk about the coronavirus. This week we're going to talk about we're just going to sort of round up all of those things that we sort of touched on. Political thoughts, universal basic income, healthcare, America, capitalism, coronavirus capitalism, like Brexit, 5G, all sorts of stuff, and just relate it all back to coronavirus. You got what stuff? What did I miss off that list?
Nothing really. Fake news, Cambridge Analytica. This is all extremely fertile ground for that gang, I'd say.
Oh, Lord. So that's what you got to look forward to.
This is the place where all your conspiracy theories meet socialism.
Yeah, I don't read any conspiracy. I only see the conspiracy theories through my YouTube channel, video roundups of conspiracy theories, debunking them.
I see them through people that I know.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's it. But first, we're going to play the music, and then we're going to chat about our extremely interesting lives. So stay tuned in and listen to this song that I made. How are you doing, Ivanka, in Croatia?
I'm doing well, actually. This morning, I ran a very good 5K, so I'm delighted, because I've been practicing. I listened to this podcast by Dr. Chatterjee, the guy that did that four-pillar plan.
Is that his real name?
Yeah, that's his surname. He's got...
It's a good surname.
I think it is. Anyway, he's been on telly and all sorts, but he talks about sort of, not just medical medicine and looking after yourself and all that kind of jazz. Anyway, I listened to one of his people that he interviewed, and they talked about breathing through one's nose rather than mouth. So for this week, I've been out running, run walking every morning and endeavoured very much to breathe through my nose. It's actually really hard for me.
And this is what's supposed to be the benefit of that?
Because noses are for breathing and mouths are not for breathing, they're for eating.
Okay.
Well, there is...
What about when you're talking? So,
It's something to do with... Which I didn't really listen to the theory too much. I just thought this is something I can play with. I've heard of it it's come up somewhere else. But basically, it's to do with... bringing in the right amount of oxygen, or the fact that if you breathe through your nose, you naturally breathe with your diaphragm and not just the top of your chest, and la la la. Anyway, I have found that I've been running. So this is my 7th day or 6th day. Anyway,
wow.
I've been doing it. It's been all sorts of interesting. But my point is that I did a really good time this morning because I looked at someone else's time that I consider to be not as fit as me, and that upset me this morning. So I ran much faster because I am a competitive cowbag. Dear. So they did me a favour by publishing their time.
Ivanka, I'm going to go and talk to them. So I'll be back in a sec.
How are you, Michael?
I'm a bit on edge because I just finally went and talked to my building neighbour and said, can you keep the f***ing volume down? Because it comes through on the podcast. But no, other than that, oh God, it really has thrown me off. I have to say,
yeah.
like,
Fair
it's
enough.
just like, So, I'm doing well. I'm like, I get up at 4:00 in the morning now, apparently. So I've been up for ages. I'm just like really enjoying working on stuff. Yeah, I've just been sort of digging into my email list project, but also finding that I've scheduled time to work on music stuff. So I've been sort of fiddling with some of that, streaming, generally staying very busy and getting lots done. And I haven't really had I don't know if I'm like heading to burnout or if I'm just like, I don't. I still feel very energized, and I think this whole like my basic needs are covered is really helping with that. It's like when I'm talking about this app suddenly selling, I'm not talking about this is basically essentially my universal basic income.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's bloody brilliant. Like, and it's like, if I hadn't cut all my costs and found somewhere cheaper to rent and like, the studio and all that stuff, then it wouldn't be enough. But because I've sort of like addressed those things and now it's like enough to actually, I'm sort of feeling the freedom and hoping that this isn't like mania.
Why would it be mania?
Well, I don't know, because sometimes you have mania, don't you? You feel really brilliant, and then you sort of crash, and then you go, oh, God. Or people, like, sort of get freaked out when you're in a good mood, and they're like, oh, he's just about to crash soon, and they sort of don't really sort of engage with you too much. But I rang my dad and his stepmom on earlier in the week, and just to chat, and we had a chat about various things, and then afterwards my stepmom texted me just to say, it's great to see you so happy.
Nice. I'm sure it is.
Liking it.
It's
good.
That's fair enough. You're allowed to be happy.
Yeah, so...
I like the description that basically you've got your universal basic income sorted.
Yes.
I mean, as soon as you don't have to worry about basic bills.
Yeah, I'm not gonna but, and it also knowing that I don't have to go and do something that I don't want to do. I don't have to go and do a job where and let's say this is the episode now. Like, why is universal basic income good? Well, because so much of what keeps people in jobs that they hate and with like bosses that treat them like shit, and they're doing stuff that is not of any benefit to humanity is just from that fear that if I'm not working, I'm not going to be able to survive.
Yeah.
And why is our baseline, like Andrew Yang just said, like, the way he puts it is like, well, why is the baseline homelessness on the street? Trying to find drugs. Like, why is that our baseline for society?
Also, another thing about that is also accepting conditions at work that you shouldn't have to put up with because you're afraid of losing your job and you're afraid of rocking the boat and you're afraid of putting up one thing I've always been grateful to, it was just, I think, part of my upbringing, really. For some reason, I've never been afraid of losing my job because I've also always thought that I'll just go and get a cleaning job or so. There's no job I haven't had. So it's like, which is a bit of whether that's true or not of the actual practicalities of life, attitudinally I've never been afraid of losing my job, which has allowed me to speak up and send emails to CEOs and go, no, you can't speak to me like that, or no, we're not working now, or no, I am having time off in lieu because I've just been away from everyone I love for 3 weeks. So but yeah, I had that just from, it was like, this was always my day job. It was always my backup plan, my day job. So I didn't really care about it. So I was like, look, you're just my backup plan. Take it easy. Cool it. I'll get this done for you. Look, that I'm going to get this done, but just, cool it. I was talking on stream yesterday. Someone was like, who's your favourite superhero? I'm like, okay, I'll buy obviously Tony Stark because I'm a nerd. And he was like, mine's Deadpool. And I was like, oh, what's he just like murdering people? He's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure about that. And he was like, I think it's okay to kill someone who has killed someone. And I was like, well, I think that's a complex. You don't know what's brought them to that point. There's varying degrees of responsibility for a death. There's all sorts of factors. And he was like, okay. And then I sort of went into this, like, these henchmen that Deadpool is just murdering, shooting in the face, like, they've got that job because I guess they, it's like, well, I just went into the army out of school. I never got an education. Now this is like, I'm good with a gun thanks to the army thing. And this job
pays really well and I don't really know what else I could do. So I'm sort of taking it. And he's got a wife at home going, like, I really wish you could do something less dangerous than henchman, because like you're just going to be the first one that gets shot by Deadpool when he starts shooting people. So, and you're like, yeah, but he's just like, he can't really stop working. So he's just stuck in this situation of being a henchman. He's just going to get murdered. And he probably hasn't even killed anyone, really, but just because he's got that uniform on, he's taking the paycheck. Does that mean he deserves to die? I don't know that it does. But it's underlines the basic flaw in our social structure, in our,
How did that go?
Economy. It's fine.
It's a good hook for the conversation.
His wife went to stay with her sister for a bit because she was just like, I don't think I could do this. So he's having to have a think, but he may have been murdered already. So I don't know. Right. So what are we going to do? We're going to round up.
Well, I think
what coronavirus has exposed.
I think yes. I think coronavirus has exposed huge flaws in the way our society is structured and the way we look after each other. It's exposed exactly how connected we are to each other and how much there is obviously. I mean, we've spoken about that. In a way, this is a great equaliser. I don't mean that literally. Some people are having a terrible experience of this, and some of us are lucky enough not to be. However, the equalising bit for me is the fact that anyone can catch this. Yeah. And if they do, and yes, of course, if you're poorer and you're less well anyway, and if you're suffering from a lot of diseases associated with living in poverty, you will more chance of having a worse experience of coronavirus. But ultimately, our Prime Minister caught it, who is a privileged white man. And
privileged as they come.
As privileged as they get. So without going into the nuances of or that level of cracks in society, it does sort of go, no, do you know what? You could have just walked into a supermarket after somebody touched the handle, blah, 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 So, but I think what I've been doing this week, because I've started this running again, I've found my podcast listening time. So I've listened to loads of things about vaccine research and the state of America land. And then I've also got family members sending me links to videos that are basically... one theory that was presented to me this week was, I've been looking at this, and there were this many cases in Wuhan, and then this many cases in somewhere else in China, and they're 7,023 kilometres apart. And how did that happen? And it must have been planted. I was like, yeah, but it was Chinese New Year, and everyone went home, and there's bits of information that you're missing in your theory. You're lining up the bits of data that you know or can see, and then I get links that it literally said, this was in a Croatian article, not in Croatia, it was Bosnian article, but it's like a very respected American doctor has run the numbers and shown that Europe will have more deaths than America. I was like, I don't really know what to do with this article you're just sending me, just because it says a very well. So then I started finding out. So by the combination of my podcasts that I've been listening to, living in coronavirus, links that people are sending me, has made me go, we need to sort out this universal healthcare, universal basic income, and education for everybody.
Education. You think so? You're seeing the education gap, would you say, in this fake news?
I think so. I think you have to. Yeah. I mean, I think and I don't think you can divorce them. I think if you're the universal basic income plus, you've got to be well in your body, to know that you're going to be looked after if you're in pain. You've got to be not hungry, and you've got to have a roof that doesn't leak, and those basic things. But you also need to be able to learn about your rights and learn about what is a good piece of data, or what is critically evaluate what you're being told, to go, am I being told this because it suits somebody else, or am I being told this because it's good for me? And I think, you've got that. The only way you can get to that is through education. There's no...
And this was the tag cloud at the end of the talk I went to about fake news was the biggest thing in there. What are we going to do about this? The biggest thing by far was education in there. So it sort of makes perfect sense. To answer the question, why socialism, which I think lots of people seem to be very confused about. And just to reiterate this, even though we've said it like many, many times, through the coronavirus lens, why socialism? Because bad things can happen to anyone. So we need to plan a safety net for everyone, not just the wealthy, not just the lucky few. So what coronavirus shows us, it takes a completely arbitrary slice through society. Even though there are completely arbitrary slices already going through society, but like people have sort of annealed to, okay, I want to actually do something with meaning, or I want to do something where I make all the money. And that's kind of been the weird sort of divide in society that sort of separates the 1% from the rest of us, or not even the rest of us. Like I'm almost there talking about people in sort of almost like minimum wage or like NHS level salaries that are doing things that are actually sort of useful and give them a sort of human connection with different people, versus the bullshit job realm of I'm going to get a job in advertising and marketing and sell this sort of slightly different smelling soap and try and make out that it's a lifestyle and spend millions of pounds on videos to promote this lifestyle that this slightly different smelling soap is supposed to promote. Just absolutely, or just like some of the best minds of humanity are just thinking about how to optimize ad clicks. That is where all the talent is going at the moment because of the way neoliberalism and capitalism works. It just says money is the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters. Therefore, your worth and your safety is directly proportional to how much money you're going to make. And what coronavirus has done is it's gone, hey, Silicon Valley, Airbnb, yup.
Yeah.
Twitch, you're going to do brilliant. Google, yeah, you're going to be fine. Hotel tonight, probably not a good business to be in right now.
Yeah.
Like it's just gone whack right down the middle and gone, anyone can fail, anyone can lose. What are you going to do? Like neoliberalism, capitalism is not going to save you. Saying that some people are better than other people and you can prove that by how much money they've got, which is the conservative view, and how much money you've got. Add into that how much money you've got usually depends on how much money your family had and very little else, regardless of how hard you work. Anyway, so that's this. And again, like people, it doesn't matter how hard you work, anything can happen at any moment. And usually if something happens to you now, you're on your own.
Yep.
And the poverty report talking about, suddenly your husband gets hit by a car and you have to care full time and you can't work your other job. Now sort of 50% of society is experiencing that effect all at once.
Yeah.
And that's why socialism says, okay, well, let's plan for that. Not let's just sort of like cut that as much as possible. I think the another side to this coronavirus lens is, again, this is not my idea, but something like 800,000 people a year in Europe die from air pollution, or so. It's some quite fantastic number. And in the UK, there's that something like 10,000 people have died through the effects of austerity. Some report a much higher figure. And these are sort of numbers that we seem to be okay with for some reason. We've not gone into social isolation and stopped car pollution just because loads of people die from air pollution, and we've not decided to give everyone 80% of their salary so they can sit at home because some people are poor, and they this idea that whatever it is, £36 a week has been acceptable as a welfare payment since forever, until people who earned more lost their jobs en masse. It's sort of like, I can't possibly live off £36 a week because
Well, because I'm used to earning $4,000 a month, $8,000 a month.
Maybe you should learn how to budget. Maybe we should put you on a budget training course.
Exactly.
Like,
it's like, have you heard of savings?
And there is the effect of like that how kind of terrifying the news story is increases your idea of how much of a risk you are at. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, well, absolutely anyone can get coronavirus, and we've seen that. And I suppose like you sort of feel like you can mitigate air pollution, or what was the other one?
Austerity, poverty, austerity.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so people that are in poverty and dealing with austerity.
Well, that's because they just didn't do
anything.
very well.
They didn't do very well. They're probably a bit lazy.
Yeah. That's why. Yeah. And then I think it's so easy to filter out these other reasons.
Yeah.
They're like,
because they're not new and exciting. They don't have like a red badge on them with the word new in it, like coronavirus does. And
they also don't have a fancy exponential graph.
No.
People, it's like the air pollution deaths aren't being tracked by exponential graphs.
I mean, climate change
videos.
has pretty scary graphs if you look at them.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, as soon as there is something sort of salacious like that, is that the right word? I think that just means like...
I think it sounds like a good word.
Like,
let's run with it.
Immediately you get these people coming in and going, oh, well, actually, that graph is incorrectly... And you go...
If you factor in...
And then you go, so does that mean that climate change isn't real? No, I'm just saying that the graph is slightly... Okay, so... But what we're seeing is... what I've seen, we've seen that, in an emergency, hey, look, we can most of us that are taking flights all the time can probably do without. You can do without all the flights and all the driving in everywhere and doing all this stuff. We've seen that, all these things that we thought we couldn't live without, loads of them, quite easy to live without. You just have to, change your habits a little bit. And it's a shame that it couldn't happen from air pollution deaths. Flipping London streets right now, please can we do what Amsterdam did and just, make the cars second-class citizens and make the bikes first-class and just have a nice city instead of this traffic jam of nonsense
stinky,
the whole time.
Noisy.
And stupid cycle lanes that anyone with any sense should never attempt to ride their bike on. Only crazy people cycle in London, really. You wouldn't, a normal person would not be cycling. You have to have a death wish.
I think that the other thing about, I wasn't completely joking about the exponential graph. Air pollution sort of crept up on us, and climate change. It has crept up on us. We've had 30 years to prepare, 40 years to prepare, but we've not really, but it's another 10%, another 1%, little percent. And then, but what I think, another thing that's been interesting with this corona thing is, for example, so I watched this Horizon documentary last night. I'm going to give my friend Bex a shout out. So I watched, she's one of the producers, and one of the things that brought in was because obviously the coronavirus thing has come from bats, and they're fairly happy that. And then apparently went on pangolins. I didn't know what a pangolin was. No. I was like, Nick and I were both like, well, I've heard of a pangolin. One of the interesting things about this whole situation is it's smashing lots of things together. It's smashing socialism into capitalism and neoliberalism. It's also bringing climate change into it. Because in cities with air pollution, there's an article yesterday that I shared, air pollution plus coronavirus increases the effects.
Right.
If you're living with bad air and then you get a respiratory disease, that's not a good combination. If the actual mutation of the virus itself And then, so they had this bat expert speaking on the programme, and he was talking about the fact that one of the reasons viruses, and for those people who haven't watched it, I'm not really spoiling anything, but one of the reasons viruses commutate in bats is because bats live in huge colonies. There's loads of, like, tens of thousands of bats all live together. So the virus gets passed around, therefore increased chance of mutating. When you intensively farm pigs or intensively farm chickens, you're artificially creating that same environment in which a virus can pass around, bounce around animals, mutate, and boom, you've got swine flu, you've got bird flu, you've got SARS and MERS and all these other. So we are also creating, with our intensive farming, with our total disregard for nature, we're creating the opportunity for these things to happen.
Can we get a coronavirus that makes people have to be vegans for a bit? Can we figure that out? Kind of get rid of this mass. There's that whole industry, that whole kind of like that huge like bacon, pig farming industry, wheat, corn industry that's just like destroying everything, and like the rainforest destruction in the name of hamburgers. It's like can we get a variant of coronavirus? Next, conspiracy theorist, whoever the Chinese scientist that came up with coronavirus. Can you do one just that makes everyone be a vegan for 6 weeks? Just to try it.
Let's just give it a go. Let's get everyone to sign off, because the threat of climate collapse that didn't work. No. Needs to be an invisible virus. Doesn't have to be terribly deathly. Deathly enough to freak everyone out.
Has to just be new and actually kill people.
Fresh.
Like and actually spread in some fancy way. Perhaps you could try a 7-day incubation period before it's contagious next time, just to really get it out there.
What is the incubation period? What is it?
I thought it's like 5-6 days before you're showing symptoms. Because that's the genius of coronavirus, COVID-19. Yeah. COVID-20, though, it's going to be all about veganism. You heard it here first.
Oh, you got to laugh.
You got to laugh at the Conservative response to a coronavirus panic. 1, lower interest rates. Bail out the fracking industry. bail out the airline companies. Like Trump's first courses of action. Bail out all these the most polluting industries that are suddenly...
Bail out his mates.
Yeah, bail out your mates. Cut interest rates so that while the ultra-rich or have a diversified portfolio, that means it probably won't affect them too much, the middle class can pay for some of this. Middle class who have savings suddenly don't get any interest on their savings anymore. So, we'll take some of that. We sort of squeezed the poor people dry now. So let's, squeeze the middle class next. But we'll be all right. Yeah, the Conservative approach to something like this is just laughable.
Well, any planet on which the fossil fuel industry gets any sort of bailout, fossil fuel, and because in America they're also doing things where they're sneakily rolling things back. But the fossil fuel industry is so heavily subsidised anyway.
They're just so bizarre. I thought
they are done.
I thought the whole point of it was that it was an easy source of energy, and that's how you got rich. Why are we subsidising it?
But I was thinking about this though on one of my runs, in the context of this world where we want to lift up everybody. So the baseline, like you say, isn't homeless on the street on drugs. It is living in a house that's cool enough, warm enough, waterproof enough, whatever it needs to be for wherever you're living, that you've got enough to eat, that you're not in pain and you're not suffering unnecessarily. Anyway, so here I was thinking about this new world order. What is the difference? Why? Well, I know the answer to this. The only difference is lobbying and existing money. But that aside, what is wrong with the idea that the government pays for insulation on everyone's house? to green the economy. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in the garden because we're lucky enough to have one, but we're like doing loads of things. So we found a new place to sit in the garden, and we haven't had to light a fire in our house to warm it for weeks, but our neighbours still are, because their house is an old house with no insulation. So, and I was just sitting there looking at it, and I was thinking, look at me with my, it's not costing me anything. I'm at a comfortable temperature, blah, blah, blah. In the summer it stays nice and cool, and in the winter it's much warmer. Like, why can't everyone have that? Yes. Why can't we just pay for that?
Yeah, because that would be too sort of... it's ironic that such an individualistic ethos is so against helping actual individuals. It's like, we're going to bail out business. We're going to help business pay the salaries that they choose to keep paying. But we're never going to just give anything to individuals, because individuals aren't as important. We don't know how important the individual might be, you see. We don't know how fit they might be, you see. So we couldn't possibly give something to everyone.
I think it's worse. I think it's more to do with, if without the necessity for making profit, how can you make sensible decisions? As a family unit.
Only KPI,
If your only KPI is surviving, I mean, what living your life is like, well, how can we possibly measure if that money that we gave you, that universal basic income, did it go to any good? And I think, they've done, I haven't read enough about it. I am not an expert in universal basic income, but, you often see these write-ups of it, and they talk about having mixed results. Now, I don't think you could possibly know how good the results of universal basic income are if you're not measuring it over the period of years.
Yeah.
How can you measure the health benefits of not being stressed and worried about survival? Or
the price of poverty and all that. The sort of indirect effects of poverty are just so wide-reaching, and they're not immediate. It's like your bad leg might take years to sort of really start falling off. I don't know. I can't think of a good illness.
Sorry, I lost you and you're back.
Oh, sorry. Well, okay. I just thought I'd made a joke. I just...
Here, have some laughter.
Very funny.
I might turn off the video anyway, because
I'm not seeing anything. I'm just seeing my face, which, just making me very aware of how very, very pale I am. But, it could be worse.
You got pale after you went to talk to your neighbours.
Did I?
Yeah, the colour, your colour changed.
Right, that's interesting.
There you go. It was visible.
Redness. Crazy. Well, it's kind of a conflict, but I'm sort of feeling so sort of a bit more kind of untouchable at the moment in a way. So I was just like, I'm just going to go and say it.
Are you feeling like some sort of rich boy with a trust fund just because you're selling a few dollars worth of software every day?
Just because my basic needs, I'm not going to fall into poverty at the drop of a hat, and I'm not going to have to go and work for some idiot for the foreseeable future, which is, yay!
Liberty!
Liberty. Rich people, the problem is that, the rich people say, oh, I don't really care about money. And you say, yeah, it's because you're rich. You don't have to think about money. That's because you're rich.
Yeah.
You could just think about things, like ideas. Poor people, people in poverty, all they can think about is money because it's the only way out. So the only way to help them is just to give them money. Stop assessing them. Stop. So that the whole idea of we've got to make someone jump through 27 hoops in order to give them, to allocate them some sort of money in some indirect way. Again, the airline pilots aren't going to put up with that, are they? Yeah. The sort of, who else?
I don't know. Advertising
people that are used to having a real job. Well, they're still going.
I think that's
unfortunately.
Unfortunately. What was I talking about? I was talking to a friend of mine, and she'd done some work in banking, sort of UX-y style stuff. Oh, she was doing it when the last crash happened, and they were a colleague was saying, oh, these poor bankers, yesterday they were earning millions of pounds and now they're earning nothing, and it's like, she's like, if you think I have any sympathy for somebody who was earning, £1 million a day and mortgaged themselves up to the hilt and didn't have the wherewithal to plan what would happen if that stopped, then I'm very sorry, but it's quite hard to be sympathetic. I mean, I understand that we all, because that's another part of this capitalist system. You, at the beginning of this podcast, I don't know if it was on podcast actually, but we've both talked about reducing our outgoings so that we can live a particular lifestyle. Now, that is a privileged statement to make in the first place, because I was even, the fact that I earned enough money to be living at a different lifestyle in the first place but if you can either reduce down or level up to so that your needs, not even your basic needs, but your simple needs are met, then you have the space to address some of your more complex needs, like having time to think, having time to read, to learn something, to exercise, to cuddle your children, to pet your dog, to do,
to perhaps come up with clever ideas to address climate change.
Exactly. I mean, you can't invent
invent stuff. Everyone's got an app idea. I tell you, every single person in the
world
existence has an app idea to tell me.
I've got a new app idea this morning, Michael.
Every single person. Everyone's got an app idea.
I've got an app idea.
Yeah.
I want to be able to race people in real time in a running app.
Right.
Just so you know.
Sounds good. I want an augmented reality ghost of me running out ahead of me or behind me when I'm running. But at the very least, it might be quite nice to have a dot on a map. I might do that. Yes. Ivanka, those... are you taking something?
No.
I can't see you. I don't know what mischief you're up to.
Yes.
Do you know these... Do you know these groups of people having parties in parks in London that are having to be broken up by the police? Do you think they're the same as the people that voted Brexit?
Well, I've seen this theory touted on Twitter.
Right.
I don't know. I think there's something angry about them.
But I'll tell you what.
I'm giving you a serious answer to a.
Here's
question.
Here's my hope for humanity, since we're sort of getting towards the episode. Here's my hope for humanity. Boris and Dom, when coronavirus first came out, they went full conservative, interest rates, herd immunity. They went, the strong will survive. And then a weekend went by and reality said, what the hell are you talking about? This
is
bullshit.
Not a computer simulation. This is
not computer simulation. This is people. This is not a f***ing meritocracy. This is, you could get it, anyone can get it. So stop with your made up nonsense. Stop with your hateful attitude towards people that are worse off than you. And here is some truth. And similarly with Trump, it's not going to be fine. Yeah, I think it's just going to go away. It's just a bit of flu. Weeks go by. Eventually he is forced by reality to start saying true things once in a while. And this is, the first line of my song that I've thought about a lot since this Brexit thing, which is all discoveries will be made with enough time. And when I wrote that, I was thinking about science, but I was also thinking about lying. If you lie, there's a timer on that before you're out. Truth will eventually kind of force its way in. And coronavirus is reality reasserting itself and saying, all this made up stuff, all these stories that you're coming up with, sorry, doesn't count, doesn't work. People are dying and you're going to have to do something about it. And you cannot pull the wool over anyone's eyes. You can't gaslight anyone. I found out the technical term for that. It's kind of like making someone think that their own understanding of the world is crazy rather than, admit that you're lying. It's just reality has exerted itself. And like Philip K. Dick says, reality is what, if you stop believing in it, doesn't go away. And finally, people like Trump and Johnson are forced to see this in some form. And I, for one, hope that makes a difference. I hope it changes them a little bit. I mean, it won't change Trump, but it might change. I've sort of had this idea of maybe Boris might get changed by his experience a little bit.
I think that's. I don't. Whether Boris will come out of this a better person, whether he'll learn anything from it, I think that'll be hard for a narcissist. However, same for Trump. However, there's no hiding from this. You can't hide. It's all very well to. Of course, herd immunity is a thing. It is a real actual thing. However, waiting to get it and waiting for and accepting the numbers of deaths required to get herd immunity, especially with a virus where we don't know how long they don't even know. For example, if you...
Yeah, we know that there was a bullshit plan. That was basically my point. They thought, we'll just let poor people die. No, you're going to have to do better than that because that's bullshit. Yeah. And just because you don't really have an internal idea of what it's like to have to go to hospital and there's no space in it, sorry, people are going to make you understand that. And that's... That aspect of it is the bit that... this idea that the people that are going to die are going to be the others... It's like there was this paediatrician on this documentary yesterday, and this Horizon programme, and she said, they talk about the fact that children aren't affected, and they are definitely much less affected. But 0.003% of children in the United Kingdom, that statistic sounds very low, but that is 800 children. It's like, that's all cool if it's not your kid. Well, I mean, it's not cool, but do you know what I mean? It's like, to say, it's all easy to ignore if it's not your kid.
Or if you don't have the empathy skills or the compassion to go, oh my God, that other person's child could be my child. I must do everything I can to protect it as well as mine. And if you don't have those empathy skills, if you don't have that basic humanity, then I don't want you in charge.
Yeah. And so this is our opportunity. This is our crisis. This is our capitalist. What's the word? This is our
Corona capitalism.
Disaster capitalism. This is our chance to kind of, before the conservative neoliberal thing just reasserts itself. This is the chance, but it's heartbreaking that Bernie dropped out of the Democratic race. I don't know if you saw that. Bernie Sanders is no longer running for president, and he was the sort of last hope of a progressive liberal government. But hey, hell. But still, let's. This is the time, if there is any time, to try and get sneak some new ideas in, and hopefully make them stick the way it worked in the last kind of depression in America, certainly, and so after the wars and things like that.
It's not even beyond conservative capitalism to invent new economies in order to get the population working, rewarded, new things built. Post-depression in America, they built roads and railways. We can build greenhouses this time.
There is no excuse as we rebuild not to be thinking about the climate and other things like that as we go. So let's. I mean, it's still terrifying how much of the bubble that these people can be in about all this stuff, but I mean, at least at least Boris has been forced into hospital, and Trump has been forced to actually change some lie that he said publicly. So that's good. All right. All right, thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
If you like the podcast, you can go to grandpodcast.com and subscribe. Are you clicking?
No.
You can go to grandpodcast.com and subscribe, or send us an email. hello@grandpodcast.com. Where can people find you, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter. But we do like an email, especially if we've said something wrong and when we've got a... I don't mind being corrected if I get a chance to read something new or find out something new. So for being champagne socialist, middle-class, privileged, white folk, please do tell us.
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking about this. We don't, we have our opinions, and we don't, pull our punches or kind of try and water anything down. And I just would hate for someone to be listening, and we like it when we agree with the people we're listening to. We like that. And then as soon as they say something we don't agree with, we sort of go, oh, I'm not sure about this person anymore. We are very open to your input if we've missed something or if we have some blinkered view. I want to know, I want to learn about how different people are experiencing this reality that we're all in different ones of. You can find me at Michael Forrest on Twitter. I am just about to launch a new series of videos where I'm sort of comparing happiness with different factors like money, like coronavirus, like exercise, activity, like how much sleep you got. All those things I'm going to show you how to do that in Google Sheets or a spreadsheet and sort of do some graphs and actually start to dig into your happiness data and get you into mood tracking. So if you're interested in that, come to goodtohear.co.uk just come to the website and sign up for my mailing list. And I'm going to give you a free book about happiness tracking.
Whoa. The other very nice thing that you could do for us is go and give us some ratings and reviews on whatever platform you listen to this on. Also, if you could tell friends, that would be also nice. It's also, and the other thing which we've added is a Patreon, so you can buy us a coffee, or give us $1 a month or something, that kind of thing.
Well, buy us one coffee every. $1 a month is one coffee each every 6 months or year almost. So
depends where you
maybe give us coffee. $5 a month so we're going to get half a coffee each per month. You know how much coffee is.
Especially in London.
So that's at Grandpa. Well, you can click on support on the website, or you can go to patreon.com/grandpodcast.
Lovely.
And with that, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
I hope you're keeping well. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.